Okay, Mary.
Following up on the special counsel, you've said the president wasn't in business with his son, but now that this investigation is in the hands of a special counsel, which does have some more sweeping authority, just to be clear, can you say with certainty that David Weiss isn't going to unearth any connections between the president and his son's business dealings?
Look, I'm going to continue saying what I have said before. The president was not in business with his son. That still stands. And just don't have anything else to add. I've been very clear about that. The president's been very clear about that. Anything else specific to this case, I would have to refer you to the Department of Justice.
Can you say it all? It certainly seems that you all thought this was behind you a couple weeks ago. Now the president's son is facing a possible criminal indictment right in the middle of an election. I mean, is the president frustrated that this plea deal has fallen apart?
So here's what I can say about all the both questions that you just asked me. Look, so if you think about what Republicans in Congress have tried to do for years, right? They have been making claims and allegations, right, about president on this front, over and over again, and month after month, year after year, they have been investigating every single angle of this and looking at for any evidence to back their allegations. That's what they've been done for years, for months, and we've seen it over the past several weeks. And what's been the result of that? If you ask yourself what we have seen from that, they keep turning up documents and witnesses showing that the president wasn't involved, never discussed these business dealings, and did nothing wrong. There's been zero evidence showing otherwise, and so that's what we have seen over the past several months. That's what we have seen over the past several years. So I'll leave it at that.
Thank you, Karine. There's been plenty of criticism over Weiss's appointment as special counsel from the folks who criticized the plea deal he pushed through that was later rejected. But now the attorney for Hunter Biden also suggested that if special counsel Weiss brings any more charges than have already been brought, it would be because something other than the facts and the law have come into play, suggesting that he could potentially buckle to political pressure. So you've had criticism coming from a lot of different areas over Weiss. How can the White House assure people that the case involving the president's son is being handled fairly?
Anything that has been stated or said by Hunter's representative, I would have to refer you to his representatives. That is not something that I will respond to. What I can say, and I've said it at the top when I was first asked this question, is that the Department of Justice is independent. That is what the president believes. He believes that this White House will not politicize the Department of Justice. This was done under the leadership of a Trump-appointed U.S. attorney, as you all know. And so I'm not going to add anything else to that.
White House support Weiss going before Congress to answer questions for the sake of transparency?
That is up to the Department of Justice.
Okay. And then on Iran, former Vice President Mike Pence said that the unfreezing of those assets would amount to the largest ransom payment in American history. And then you also had the Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu saying arrangements that do not dismantle Iran's nuclear infrastructure will not stop its nuclear program, will only provide it with funds that will go to terrorist elements sponsored by Iran. So most, if not all, Americans support bringing home hostages, but is the administration not also concerned that at the same time it's talking about giving Iran $6 billion, they're considering putting, Marines on commercial vessels to bolster security against this state?
So a couple of things. You asked me two questions, so I'll take the first one. So I want to be clear that the negotiations for the release and return of the United States are ongoing. To the United States of these 5 individuals, they are ongoing. Just to be even more clear, what is being discussed isn't a payment of any kind. These aren't U.S. dollars. They aren't even taxpayer dollars. What's being pursued here is an arrangement wherein the Iranian people can, with the oversight of the U.S. Treasury Department, Qatar, and aid organizations, avail themselves of Iranian funds that had been held in a South Korean account since 2018. This is the money that the previous administration allowed Iran to make and keep in a special accounts. They let Iran spend billions of dollars of it and got nothing in return. So the only thing we've discussed with Iran is a process through which these funds could be assessed for humanitarian purposes. We have fully visibility about where the money was going and for what purpose. We are discussing a good deal here. We'd still limiting how they can use their own money through this deal. The Iranian people, with whom we have no quarrel with, must just get a break from the oppression and the hunger and the poverty the regime in Tehran has inflicted upon them. So want to make sure that's really clear as it relates to the nuclear deal. This positive step is not linked to any other issue. This is not about anything else. And we have not changed any aspect of our overall approach as it relates to Iran, which continues to be focused on deterrence, pressure, and diplomacy. As I said earlier, diplomacy is a really important part of how the president likes to move forward when it comes to foreign policy. And this is about bringing home these U.S. citizens, reuniting them with their loved ones. That's what this is about, nothing else.
Harm the U.S.-Israel relationship at this very critical time, though?
Look, this is about bringing home U.S. citizens, bringing them home to their families. That's what this is about. It's not about anything else. And we've been very clear about that. And we're going to make sure we do everything that we can to get these U.S. citizens who were wrongfully detained, let's not forget that, wrongfully detained, back home to their families. And that's the president's priority.
I'm Steve Ducey.
I'm Brian Kilmeade.
And I'm Ainsley Earhart. And click here to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page to catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis.